Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. K and this is Body Successful. Cancer, epilepsy, seizures, athletes. These seemingly unrelated words have one thing in common: ketone bodies. Well, ketosis is an evolutionary mechanism of the body to try to survive when food intake is really low. So the ketogenic diet essentially is a way to trick the body into initiating this mechanism without starving. So it involves you switching out your high carbohydrate foods with high fat and high protein foods, and as a result inducing this ketogenic process or ketogenic state in the body. What that means is normally the body is used to burning carbohydrates for energy before it taps into its fat stores. But see, when you're refraining from taking in enough carbohydrate-rich foods and you're still maintaining adequate caloric intake, in other words, you're not calorie restricting, but you're allocating your macronutrients in a different way, you can trick your body into thinking that it's actually starving and initiate tapping energy source, tapping into the fat stores as an energy source. And this is how this diet basically got its name. Meaning oxidizing fat. When you're utilizing fat for energy, you're releasing ketone bodies, hence the ketogenic diet. And you probably have been introduced to this diet for its highly effective fat loss benefits. But before you kind of label this as the next fad or the new fad out there, just know this, that the ketogenic diet is probably the most studied and scientifically proven study out there or diet out there currently on the market. And there's so much more to this than actually meets the eye. We know this for its really powerful fat loss benefits, but there's so much more to this that you may not know. I got introduced and actually got really intrigued by this diet when I found out that both the Department of Defense and NASA were pouring in copious amounts of resources and millions of dollars into studying how ketones affect the human body. And what you may not know is that athletes like Lebron James, cancer patients, people who suffer from seizures, epilepsy, narcolepsy, migraine sufferers, and the list goes on, have been reaping the effects of high ketones in the body for a long period of time. So how did this all start about? Well, let's start with the Navy SEALs. See, Navy SEALs had a huge problem on their hands. They're really good at what they do, right? But they had a huge limiting factor. Because their part of their job is to operate undetected, whenever they were diving underwater, they could not utilize the conventional oxygen breathers that produce bubbles because they would be detected. So this new oxygen rebreathers they were using were creating high concentrations of oxygen in their body, and combine that with the high pressure underwater, but creating spontaneous seizures in their brain. And these seizures were not detected, they could not be prevented, and they did not respond to medication. So huge problem on their hand, right? So then the Department of Defense steps in, they start doing tons of research, and what do they come out with? Well, they create exogenous ketones, first of all, because they find out that ketone bodies they have a neuroprotective property in the brain. So what that means is that ketone bodies change the genetic expression and as a result alter energy metabolism in the body and stabilizing neurofunction. Simple as that. Well, that's a lot of sciencey research words that we're not going to go further into, because the whole purpose of this video for me was for you to see that there's so much more to this ketogenic diet than is out there, because it's inundated with its fat loss properties. But I'd like you to understand that there's so much more to this in any case. So what they found that with utilizing these exogenous ketones that they were able to manufacture in the lab, that they were able to prevent seizures and also circumvent any type of dietary restriction that would be needed in order to go into ketosis. So this was a huge breakthrough, and of course, opened the door to further understanding the ketogenic diet has so many more benefits when it comes to certain disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and like I mentioned before, cancer and migraine headaches and epilepsy, and really the list goes on. Of course, athletic performance is altogether a completely different whole big subject that we could be talking about, but I'm going to leave that for a different video. So you understand that this growing body of research has undeniable results in terms of the effects of ketogenic diet on all these different types of diseases. And get this, so for example, in cancer patients, in a normal individual, in a healthy individual, a normal healthy cell can utilize both glucose and ketone bodies very efficiently for energy. In other words, it's like a hybrid engine. It can use alternate fuel sources depending on what it is given. And the same thing goes for the cell. It can use both glucose and it can switch very efficiently into ketone utilization depending on what the environment is. Now, cancer cells have a huge limiting factor. They are really flawed in the sense that they can only metabolize glucose, so they're glucose dependent. Cancer cells cannot use any other form of energy other than sugar in order to grow and multiply. So this is really huge. This finding was really big because it led scientists on a completely different path when it came to cancer research. And what they found was that because cancer can only metabolize sugar, obviously, ketogenic diet that is almost zero sugar, combined with hyperbaric chamber treatments, which is the highly pressurized environment, it was extremely effective in both prevention and treatment of cancer. So this definitely opened the door into thinking of how we're going to be approaching the non-toxic treatment and prevention of cancer in the future. Again, it's another major breakthrough, and there are a lot of cancer treatments that already, centers that already utilize this method of treatment when it comes to cancer approach. So you see, a whole study that started out as a problem for Navy SEALs having seizures led down a path and then opened up so many more avenues and understanding of this application of the ketogenic diet. And today we understand that there's so much more to this state of ketosis than we really understood in the past. I mean, we know that the ketogenic diet was used since the 1920s in the treatment of seizures and epilepsy in children. And so we're slowly moving away from that, obviously, because diets cannot be marketed and shared or traded on the stock market. But again, that's a totally different story. But we have a very strong understanding that the ketogenic diet is like an iceberg. So we see the tip of the iceberg as the big fat loss benefits, and you see it everywhere, on social media. But underneath, what you don't see is this huge plethora of other benefits that the ketogenic diet can offer people. So I hope that this kind of swayed you in not dismissing this diet as just another fad and understanding that there's so much more to this. So I'm going to end with Hippocrates, who said, "Let food die be your medicine." I hope that you enjoyed the content and it kind of sparked a little light for you on this topic. If you like the content, please comment below, and please let's start opening up conversation. And please let me know if you have tried this diet and how it had worked for you and what type of benefits you had reaped from this diet. And please subscribe if you haven't done so yet, so that you don't miss future content on this channel. Until next time, this is Dr. K.